1,000 years, the Yoruba people are still going to survive? Is this person going to ensure Fulani see Nigeria? The Yoruba man, how do you see Nigeria? How do you to promote religion, especially Christianity and Islam? Because they use these two religions to people, these Fulani militias, to stop killing. Everybody needs to give up a piece of their land in the entire state of Nigeria for the Fulani. About the weak. Nigeria does not respect the weak. The ideology of one Nigeria. That was why Chief Obafemi Awolowo fought with his life. Listening to us. I greet us all in the name of Olodumare. I greet us all in the name of the ancients. I greet us all in the name of those that came before us. Tonight is a wonderful night. Tonight is a glorious night as we use this opportunity to continue to preach the message of consciousness and the renaissance of Yoruba civilization. I greet those that have been before us. I greet those that have been, that will be after us. And I greet those that will surely come after us. Tonight is going to be a night to remember. And I want us to pay attention. I want us to be able to understand that this topic is extremely critical for us to understand the future of Nigeria, for us to understand the future of our country, to understand what is surely going to happen in West Africa. For us to understand the present, we must look into the past. And for us to understand the future, we must understand the past. The past is so important for us to be able to understand the present and predict the future. So, the topic tonight is a rhetorical question. Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? Is Nigeria a nation or a country? Let me go deeper. And when I mean deeper, the deeper means what exactly do we call Nigeria? How did we become Nigerians? Who is a Nigerian? And what is the geopolitical reality of being a Nigerian? I know many people have answered this question because the Nigerian question has not been properly answered, which is why there's a lot of contradiction within the Nigerian equation. Before going again, I also want to thank all the members of TYF worldwide. I want to thank all wonderful Yoruba people worldwide that believe in this cause, that believe in this institution called TYF, that believe in this journey, that believe in this agenda, that believe in what we are doing currently. No matter where you are listening tonight, share this conversation with your friends and family, because tonight is one of those nights where the yoke and chains of ignorance is going to be broken. We speak tonight not as secessionists. We speak tonight not as rebels. We speak tonight as liberators. We speak tonight as philosophers. We speak tonight as intellectuals. What is Nigeria? Nigeria is a British creation. God did not create Nigeria. Nigeria was a product of the British Empire. It was created by European imperialism. Nigeria was a product of racism. Nigeria was an accident of history. This is not a lie. This is a reality. Nigeria was not created by Danfodio. Nigeria was not created by Oduduwa. Nigeria was not created by Alafin. Nigeria was not created by any Nigerian. Nigeria was created. Nigeria was created by people, powers that be. Nigeria was a product. Nigeria was a product of British imperialism. We need to understand these fundamentals. Failure to understand this reality, then we are deceiving ourselves. What is a nation? A nation is an entity where there's a commonality of religion, commonality of language, commonality of civilization. That is a nation. That is a nation. Nigeria is not a nation. There's no commonality of religion. There's no commonality of identity. There's no commonality of language. There's no commonality of culture. There's no commonality of worldview. So Nigeria does not qualify to become the nation. And I'm echoing the thoughts and the speech of the former governor of Lagos State in the person of Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola SAN, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And I'm also going to go back into history to speak, to quote, to mirror, to express the thoughts of the father of the modern Yoruba nation. And I'm talking and I'm speaking about I'm talking about Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He said that Nigeria is not a nation but a mere geographical expression, not out of hate, but out of deep philosophical thoughts. Because this is the reality of Nigeria. And I also want to speak about what is an empire. An empire is a geopolitical entity with a dominant center and weaker subordinates. It is either ruled by a monarch or any official. That is the fundamental definition of an empire. From the definition of an empire, ask yourself, is Nigeria an empire or a country? Is Nigeria a country or a nation? Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? We need to understand these fundamental facts. And I can say this, that Nigeria is an empire masquerading as a nation. Nigeria is not a nation, it's a geopolitical entity, it is an empire. It is not a civilization state. It is a multiple civilization state. It's a multi-civilization state where the different parts are fighting for power. They are fighting for power and resources. They are fighting for control. They are fighting. They are fighting for power and resources. That is the reality of Nigeria. That is the reality that we currently face as Nigerians. Now, I want us to understand this, that what are the characteristics of empires? What are the characteristics of nation? For characteristics of empires, empires are always held together through the force of arms. Empires are always held together through military power. Empires are always held together through the use of military conquest. Empires are always held together through the use of all tricks of governance. Empires are held together, oftentimes not through the will of the people. Empires are not held together through voxi populi voxi dei, which is the voice of the people, the voice of God. Empires are held together through the use of cold blood iron will. That is how empires are held together. So Nigeria is an empire. Now the question is, if Nigeria is an empire, on which civilization is Nigeria operating? These are the kind of questions people need to understand. Our conversation tonight is extremely critical. The problem of Nigeria is not Tinubu. The problem of Nigeria is not the Igbos. The problem of Nigeria is not the Fulanis. The problem of Nigeria is not the Ijaws. The problem of Nigeria is not the Yorubas. The problem of Nigeria is not our corrupt politicians. The problem of Nigeria is not our corrupt leaders. The problem of Nigeria is not our inefficient leadership. The problem of Nigeria is because Nigeria has not been defined. Nigeria is up for grabs. Nigeria is up for grabs. Nigeria is a virgin land where anybody can turn and take up anything and use it to become anything. That is the reality of Nigeria. There is no Nigeria. As regards to what it is, Nigeria it was created for economic interests of some people. We don't need to deceive ourselves. We don't need to lie to ourselves. This country was created for the political survival of some people. Whose people are that? The imperial interest, the British interest. And I did not say this, but I did not invent this. That was the reason for the 1914 amalgamation. So we have to understand that. Now I need to go back to what I was trying to say the other time. That on which civilization, and what do I mean? On which engine is Nigeria operating on? Is Nigeria using a Volvo engine? Is it using a Mercedes-Benz engine? Is it using a BMW engine? Is it using a Jaguar engine? And what is the engine? The engine is the civilization and the ideology that runs this Nigeria. Nigeria has multiple meaning to different people, which is why an average Igbo man does not understand why he should not be conquering the Yorubas in Lagos. The average Igbo man does not understand why he should not be conquering the indigenous Dagi people in FCT. The average Igbo man does not understand why he should not be conquering the Ijaws in Rivers, in Bayelsa. The average Igbo man does not understand why he should not be sharing the gold resources in Zamfara with the indigenous Hausa people. Because to him, that is his own definition of one Nigeria. Let's also go deeper. What about the Fulanis? What is the definition of one Nigeria to the Fulanis? The definition of Nigeria to the Fulanis is that everybody should be under Sharia law. The Nigeria should be ruled by the Sultanate. That is one definition of Nigeria. That is one definition of greatness. He views Nigeria from the ultra-Sunni Fulani Islamic civilization that his own forefathers created for the past 200 years before the creation of Nigeria, 100 years before the creation of Nigeria. And he believes, because that system of government turned the Fulanis into the super race, into the ruling class, into the aristocrats, over the indigenous people in the northern part of Nigeria. Now, the question is, you should ask yourself, why should the Fulani man not appreciate that system of government? Why should the Fulani man not understand it? Why you tell him not to practice Sharia? Because Sharia law was what Madam Fodio instituted in northern Nigeria. So you are asking a Fulani man to stop being who he is because of the creation of Nigeria. He's going to look at you as stupid. It's like you're asking him to to commit seppuku because this is what Nigeria is to him. So you cannot blame him when he goes around raiding, killing, maiming, and is asking people to give up their land or they'll be killed, or asking people to embrace Sharia law because this is his own civilization. That is the definition of Nigeria to him. To him, he still believes that the Sultan of Sokoto is supreme than the rest of us. Let's talk about the Yoruba man. The Yoruba man wants to continue to praise the Onirisha as the head of all kings throughout the world. Olori Gbogbo Alade Gbogbo. He believes that Ile-Ife is the center of civilization. He believes that Yoruba land does not belong to him. It is an inheritance that he needs to give to his children. That is the fragile ideology of an average Yoruba man. And because that is where his forefathers have been for the past 1,000 years. Then how dare an Igbo man tell him that the Yoruba man must stop being Yoruba, that the Yoruba man must diminish his Yorubaness, so that this thing called Nigeria can be embraced. It makes no sense to the average Yoruba man. It makes no sense to an average Yoruba man. And you are telling him one Nigeria. He's going to ask this question. What sort of Nigeria are you talking about? Because this is what Nigeria is. Nigeria means different things to different people. 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 So we also need to understand that the failure for Nigeria to define Nigeria is why Nigeria is what it is. Nigeria has not been defined. Nigeria has not been defined. And because Nigeria has not been defined, that is why Nigeria is in a state of war. Nigeria is at war with itself. Let me tell you the truth. Nigeria is fighting against itself. Nigeria is fighting against itself. Nigeria is fighting against itself. And because Nigeria is fighting against itself, which is why Nigeria is in a state of anarchy. That is why Nigeria is in a state of war. Look at Nigeria. It has been fighting a brutal war. Nigeria is fighting against those who want to reconstitute the Islamic Caliphate in the northeastern part of Nigeria. That is the Boko Haram. Boko Haram are mostly ethnic Kanuris. The failure to properly understand Nigeria is why Nigeria is what it is. The failure to properly define Nigeria is why Nigeria is what it is. The failure to properly expatiate Nigeria, that is why Nigeria is what it is. The failure to properly explain Nigeria is why Nigeria is what it is. Because we need to understand that Nigeria is a clash of civilization. I said, what is the engine? What is the civilization on which Nigeria runs? Is Nigeria running on Western democracy? And what type of Western democracy? Nigeria supposedly uses a Western democracy. The Western democracy is not just something you pluck from the tree. The Western democracy runs on a civilization. What is the civilization on which Nigeria works? Nigeria is working on using Western democracy, which is built on Greco-Roman, Anglo-Saxon, Judeo-Christian civilization. You have to understand that. That is why there are some Islamic fundamentalists and some Islamic theological teachings in the northern part of Nigeria, where they said that democracy is anti-Islam, that the kind of democracy Nigeria practices is anti-Islam, and they believe it, and they are killing themselves. They are destroying people. They are wiping out themselves. This is the reality of Nigeria. So what exactly is civilization that Nigeria runs? Within Nigeria, there are different blocks, there are different places that is running on different civilization. So the concept of saying, oh, one Nigeria, what is one Nigeria, is a form of ludicrous. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any ideological sense. It doesn't make any moral sense. It doesn't make any intellectual sense. It doesn't make any political sense. So the idea of one Nigeria is criminal in itself. The idea of one Nigeria is criminal itself. So we also need to understand. We need to understand something fundamental. And what am I trying to say as regards to the ideology of one Nigeria? The ideology of one Nigeria is actually built.
Okay.
The ideology of one Nigeria is actually built. Is pure lies. The ideology of one Nigeria. That was why Chief Obafemi Awolowo fought with his life to explain the ideology of one Nigeria. The ideology of one Nigeria is based on ethnic erasure. The ideology of one Nigeria is built on the destruction of indigenous people. So we must understand, is Nigeria a nation or an empire? Is Nigeria a nation or an empire? Is Nigeria a nation or an empire? How does empire functions? Which is why you understand that within Nigeria, some ethnicities are not contented with their regions. Some ethnicities are not, ethnic nations are not contented with what God has given them. Some ethnic nations are not contented with what they need. Some ethnic nations are not contented with what they think they should have.
Okay.
Some ethnic nations want to get more because they see that it's an empire. Empires are built on bloodshed. It's unfortunate that the Yoruba people, we built so many empires in our history, but we do not actually understand what empire means. Empire is not built on bread and butter, which is why you look at Nigeria. Nigeria actually respects the weak and it destroys the strong. Nigeria does not respect the weak, it destroys the strong. And I'm going to give you one instance. When the Niger Delta militancy started, what did Nigeria do? Because Nigeria could not crush the Ijaw militants who are armed to the teeth. They negotiated with them and gave them guns and ammunition, gave them weapons, they gave money, and they created billionaires out of the warlords in the southern part of Nigeria. Nigeria respects the strong. But what our leaders are going to be assassinated for us to understand what Nigeria is. Nigeria is a brutal struggle for power. It is winner takes all. About the weak. Nigeria does not respect the weak. Let me give you another instance. Look at the ethnic minorities in the Middle Belt. They are being killed. They are being subjugated. They are being dampened. They are being pushed down. But if you realize that's what as Nigeria, what did under Buhari, what was the Buhari saying? Buhari was saying for these people, these Fulani militias
Okay.
to stop killing, everybody needs to give up a piece of their land in the entire state of Nigeria for the Fulani to stop killing. That's an empire. Empire respects the strength, it respects strengths. You look at USA and Iran. Before USA and Iran, before the war, America has been boasting to wipe out Iran from the surface of the earth. America has been boasting that they are going to wreck Iran. America has been boasting that what they did in Iraq, they are going to do it in Iran. But after 60 days, they found out that Iran could not be destroyed. And what did they do? They are now negotiating with Iran. All the things look now. Last week, few months ago, there was a bloody uprising in Iran where people rose up to protest against the strict Islamic theocratic system Iran was practicing that limits the rights of women and crushes the rights of
Okay.
people to be able, the right of people to be able to express themselves not according to theocratic traditions. More than 20,000 protesters were killed. Many thousands were also hanged. They were sentenced to death. Many people were saying, oh, this was wrong, this is wrong. But let me tell you the truth. The world has moved on because Iran is strong. Iran is an empire. It's a built on Persian civilization. It's an empire. That is where empire works. Empire crushes. Empire crushes. What about the October 20 massacre in Lekki? People have moved on because that's why our empire functions. That is why you realize that there's a clash of civilization. If not that the other blocks within Nigeria are formidable, the Fulanis would have been able to use violence, would have been able to use pure bloodshed to be able to intentionally enforce their will on the rest of Nigeria. This is the reality of Nigeria. This is the reality of what we face. Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? A lot of you are proud Nigerians. But all of us, every Nigerian is a victim. Every Nigerian, whether you are proud Nigerian or not, we are all victims of European imperialism. Every Nigerian is a product of British racism. Every Nigerian is a product of European hegemony. Every Nigerian is a product of an accident of history, which is why you look at Nigeria very well. Nigeria loves to promote religion, especially Christianity and Islam, because they use these two religions to tell people to continue to tolerate all sorts of inadequacies within Nigeria. They tell people, oh, the killings in Nigeria, you can steal the will of God. They tell people, oh, the killings in Nigeria is the Amuwa Oloruni. Oh, the killings in Nigeria should be tolerated. The injustice within Nigeria should be tolerated. So in every some the Igbos see Nigeria, the Igbos understand Nigeria for what it is. From 1914 till date, from 1914 to 2026, it's more than 100 years. The Igbos have never treated Nigeria as a nation. The Igbos have never seen Nigeria as a commonwealth. They see Nigeria as a market. They see Nigeria from a position, from a transactional position. They see Nigeria as a colony that should be exploited, should be extracted for the greatness and the power and the expansion and the hegemony of the Igbo nation. The Fulanis have never seen Nigeria as a nation. The Fulanis have never seen Nigeria as a country. How did they see Nigeria? They see Nigeria as an extension of the estate of their grandfather, Madam Fodio. They see Nigeria as a continuation of the Sokoto Caliphate. That is how the Fulanis see Nigeria. The Yoruba man, how do you see Nigeria? How do you see Nigeria? The Yoruba people are one of the most naive people within Nigeria. And we don't need to continue to be humiliated. We don't need another June 12 to happen to us for us to understand what Nigeria is. We don't need to get into a position of slavery. We don't need a position where our leaders are going to be assassinated for us to understand what Nigeria is. Nigeria is a brutal struggle for power. It is winner takes all. What our politicians are doing is just performative. And there's a limit. There's a limit to this elite game and aristocratic game they are playing. Because underground, it is a struggle for power and resources. Which is why you see that there's some extreme radicals that believe that for Nigeria to become a nation, ethnic identity needs to be erased. Which is why you have genocidal statements like detribalized. That's how you are going to see some people say that for Nigeria to be one, everybody must start speaking Hausa language. It is genocide. Some people also believe that for Nigeria to be one, everybody should start speaking pidgin language. That was what was done in France, unfortunately. That's why some of us will never join those that hide under a good Nigerian to be asking for revolution. Some people believe that for Nigeria to be created, to become a nation, the ethnic race, the civilization must be destroyed. Why should we give up our 1,000-year civilization for Nigeria to survive? Why? Why? Why should we give up who our forefathers were for their own definition of Nigeria to survive? That is why we need to understand who are we voting for. Who are we voting for? Stop voting people because somebody, oh, she or no, oh, for any kulikuli, oh, for any gari, oh, for any, all those kind of things. Is this person going to preserve the Yoruba civilization? Is this person going to ensure that in the next 100 years, in 2,000 years, the Yoruba people are still going to survive? Is this person going to ensure that the Yoruba people are not going to be exterminated within Nigeria? Because people are acquiring more land. People are expanding within Nigeria. Look at Jos, the indigenous lands of the Biron people. The Hausa Fulani settlers have been looking for ways to take that land from them. Even after Nigeria was created, Jos has been in a state of war where settlers are demanding equal rights from the indigenous people. What about Southern Kaduna? Go and read about what happened to Sango Kataf crisis. You have to understand what happened in Kaduna, where some people in a state that is 50-50 Christian Muslim, and some people wanted to impose Sharia law on a secular, multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-tribal state. Okay. What happened? Since then, Southern Kaduna has still been in a state of chaos. Southern Kaduna has been in a state of anarchy. Southern Kaduna has been in a state of war because some people want to impose their own definition of what one Nigeria should be on the rest of everybody, on the right of everybody. Let's also go into, that's why Sudan is a good example of Nigeria. That was why British India fell apart. Because there was nothing called one India. There's something called one India. On which civilization was India going to run? Sunni, ultra-Sunni Islamic civilization, or the Hindu civilization? It was a war. It was a disaster waiting to happen. So that was why India broke apart and Pakistan and Bangladesh left. So that the India can become a majority Hindu-ruled country. So you have to look at Sudan. Immediately the British left Sudan. What did the Arabs start doing? the Arabs started the full Arabization of Sudan. Even though Sudan means the land of the blacks. Because we need to properly understand, people need to understand the way the world works. That somewhere is called Yoruba land, that somewhere is called Leko, that we have over 100 Obas in Lagos State. It's not going to stop the Igbos in looking for how they are going to chase out all Yoruba people and turn Lagos State into an Igbo extension, Igbo land extension that they've been trying for the past 80 to 100 years. Because Arab means, Sudan means the land of the black people. It was the land of the indigenous black people. So how did the land of the indigenous black people become 80% Arab majority in 2026? It was non-stop extermination and wiping out of indigenous people, black people, pushing them away. They were clearing them little by little, step by step, non-stop for 200 years. The same thing is also happening in Nigeria, where we see Fulanis that have always, in the name of jihad, has been in a state of war with across the indigenous people within Nigeria. Why did you think Southern Cameroon left? Southern Cameroon went from frying pan to fire. They ran away from Nigeria because it seemed that the Igbo of Southern Cameroon was a matter of time, that they were going to be Igbo and acculturated and assimilated. It was the civil war that liberated ethnic minorities in the former Southeastern region. Without the civil war, many of the ethnic minorities today in southern Nigeria, especially in former Eastern region, would have become Igbos. This is the reality. You must understand that some people understand what Nigeria is. Many ethnicities, the Igbos are not naive. They are very sharp-minded. They understand their mission in Nigeria. They know what Nigeria is. That is why they say, oh, they are competing. Why should a Yoruba man in Nigeria be competing with other ethnicities in Yoruba land? Why should indigenous people be competing with outsiders in their indigenous land? So that is why you understand that the UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Arabs, they are not stupid people. They are intelligent people. You can live in their land for 2,000 years. You can never become a citizen. They will never, in fact, for instance, Kuwait is revoking citizenship. Let me give you an instance. During the Eids, after the Nakba is called, it means catastrophe. When the Jews expelled millions of Palestinians from their land after the 1948 war, after the declaration of independence of the existence of the state of Israel in 1948. So a lot of Palestinians became refugees. They went to Kuwait to settle. And because of Pan-Arabism and Pan-Islamism, Kuwait gave them, many of them became Kuwaiti citizens. They gave them land, they gave them places, passports to settle. But during the invasion of Kuwait by Saddam Hussein, the Palestinians, descendants of Palestinians that came as refugees, that were living in Kuwait, were supporting and clapping for Saddam Hussein in the invasion of Kuwait. Because Saddam Hussein was anti-America. But because they felt that Iraq was going to conquer Kuwait. So America intervened and Saddam Hussein was pushed back. After the war, when the Kuwaiti monarchy was able to survive it, all the tens of thousands of Palestinians were chased out of Kuwait. They chased them out of Kuwait. They are both Arabs. They are both Muslims. So they share, they speak the same language, they look the same. But when it comes to survival, they understand. Palestinian refugees, but they found one revoke identity, revoke passports. They are going to destroy Kuwait in the future. Arabs are very, very intelligent. They are very radical with their survival. It doesn't matter how long you live in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in UAE. You pay taxes. You can never become join their police. They will never allow you. You can only make your money and leave because they understand self-preservation. A land you cannot protect does not belong to you. A land you cannot defend does not belong to you. Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? We need to understand these fundamentals. Nigeria is at war with itself because people are fighting for the survival of Nigeria. People are fighting for the interpretation of Nigeria. People are fighting for what Nigeria actually means. People are fighting for what is the definition of this Nigeria. People are defining Nigeria. Yoruba people, have you defined Nigeria? Yoruba people, have you defined what Nigeria means? The Yoruba people have not defined Nigeria. And if we don't define Nigeria in our own terms, other people are going to define Nigeria and we are going to be reacting for the rest of our lives. And reactionaries are never going to win. Reactionaries are going to be destroyed. So you need to understand, you need to defend Nigeria, defend and define your own Nigeria. Our own definition of Nigeria is based on Awoism. Our own definition of Nigeria is based on Yorubanism. Our own definition of Nigeria is a Nigeria where the Yoruba people are going to rule Yoruba land. We don't want the Nigeria where Igbos are going to be ruling in Yoruba land. We don't want the Nigeria where Fulanis are going to be ruling in Yoruba land. We don't want such Nigeria. We want a Nigeria that looks like Switzerland. We want a Nigeria that looks like Belgium.
Okay.
We want a Nigeria that looks like the United Kingdom. Many of these genociders, these expansionists, these empire builders have given several lectures that there are two types of Nigerians. There are nation builders and the empire builders. The Yoruba people have been building a nation in the midst of empire builders. If you are building a nation within an empire building people, you are going to be consumed and cannibalized and eaten for breakfast. This is why we are here. This is why we are seeing some people, they will open ring lights and be openly saying that, openly intellectualizing the extermination of the Yoruba people. These are young folks, Bible thumping Christians, people that speak in tongues every Sunday. They dress in suits, they are ushers. They go to church every Sunday. They are your brothers, they are your friends. And they are saying there's nothing wrong if Yoruba people are replaced in Yoruba land. That what about Canada? The indigenous people have been wiped out. So the Yoruba people have no reason why we should not welcome the superior people with the better IQ to take over our land. We have videos. We have videos. These are people with who have never built a successful society, any city state for the past 2,000 years. They built nothing. The biggest city in Southeast was built by the Igbos, but was built by the British. It was built by the British. Kaduna was built by the British. Jos was built by the British. Enugu was built by the British. So why is it that anytime we are talking about Lagos or Yoruba places, people start saying it was built by the British? There are more than 5 cities that were built by the British. More than 5 cities were built by the British within Nigeria. So why is it that people start using excuses? Because when people see you as weak, they see you as game to be conquered and to be eaten. Nigeria does not respect weak ethnicities. Nigeria does not guarantee the survival of ethnic minorities. In as much Nigeria exists for the next 2,000 years, some ethnicities will never become speaker. Some ethnic nations will never become Senate president till eternity, talk less of becoming the president. Yet they are in Nigeria and nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. The Welsh can never become the prime minister of England. The Irish can never become the prime minister of United Kingdom, even though they are within the same country. So don't think, oh, everybody is equal. Everybody is not equal in Nigeria. The Gede man is not equal to the Yoruba man within Nigeria. I'm saying some controversial things today. It is the bitter truth. Can an Igede man become the Senate president of Nigeria? Can an Igede man become the president of Nigeria? We understand that the odds are very high. It's almost impossible. Almost impossible. So Nigeria, everybody is building empires. There's no liberals in Nigeria. The only liberals in Nigeria are the Yoruba people, and it's because they are political illiterates. They are committing geopolitical suicide. For them to understand that we are within Nigeria does not mean that we should give up our identity. You look at USSR. In USSR, which was a superpower, it was a huge superpower. Many people believe the USSR was going to exist for the next 1,000 years. Where is the USSR today? Empire rises, empire falls. It does not matter. Before Nigeria, there was the Yoruba people. After Nigeria, there must be Yoruba people. We must be able to survive. I'll be survive within Nigeria. We must be able to survive. We must be able to survive as Yoruba people, which is why it is very funny when some people believe that the regional government is going to stop Fulani expansionism or Igbo expansionism, empire building within Nigeria. You are wasting your time because we had a regional system of government. The British were still here when Azikwe was already planning on how he was going to capture Yoruba land and turn Yoruba land as a vassal state, as a colony, as an annex of Igbo land. It is the bitter truth. Why should an Igbo nationalist, why should the president of the Igbo State Union Why should the first president of the Igbo Federal Union, why should the president of the, why should the father of the modern Igbo nation want to rule Yoruba land at all costs? Why? Does it make any sense? It does not make any sense. Because it is local colonialism. The Scottish, the English will never try to go and become the first prime minister of Scotland. The Welsh will never going to say they want to go and rule Northern Ireland. It is common sense. But because Nigeria has not been defined, people lie because deception is part of war. Lying, twisting facts, and modeling arguments up in order to be able to destroy the consciousness of young Yorubas is an act of war. And anybody doing that, they are doing it in order to gain leverage. It's like you see a lot of people who we did not know, who sponsor from different places, attacking TYF as an institution because they see pan-Yorubanism as an enemy of pan-Islamism. You are going to see people who can no longer visit their villages, where Fulani jihadist terrorists have taken over their villages and terrorists, advocating for Sharia law in Lagos State. And you start asking questions. If Sharia law had worked wonders in Zamfara, where have you become? Why are you living in IDP camp in Osun State? And you still want to bring the ideology that have made you homeless? You are importing it into Yoruba land. It's not different from those that are Shabab, Al Qaeda, ISIS chased away from Somalia and chased you to New York. You went to New York. The next thing is you are advocating for the turn how you are going to turn United States of America, a Christian nation, into an Islamist nation. And when they were chasing you out, you are going to be shouting racism. It is not racism because you are not a citizen. You are a soldier. You are an invader. You are not a legal resident. You are a threat to the people. This is the definition. We need to understand what is Nigeria. What is Nigeria? An empire or a nation? An empire doesn't need our nation. If Nigeria is going to become a country, it has to. Nigeria can work based on ethno-linguistic federalism. That's why you look at what Babajide Fashola was saying. He broke the table. He said it the way it is. He said it the way it is. This is a country of many nations. This is a country of many nations. And we can be diverse. And when everybody is contented with what God has given them, where you are not coming from Anambra, you are not sitting in Anambra and planning how you are going to capture Lagos. Where you are not sitting in Abia and you are planning on how you are going to capture Osun State. Where you are not sitting in Zamfara and all what you are planning is how you are going to capture Calabar land. And you are not sitting somewhere kidnapping, sponsoring terrorism, and using terrorism and instability to think you can twist the indigenous people of Nigeria to capitulate to you and give you lands, except so that there can be peace. There can be graveyard peace. Nigeria, a country like Nigeria, don't deceive yourself. It's going to be a fight to finish. If nobody can capture Nigeria, if anybody goes the route of Sudan in Nigeria, Nigeria will implode and collapse. Because there are so many civilizations within Nigeria. Even though I've spoken about the Islamic civilization, some people even want to create a Christian civilization in Nigeria. Let me give you an example of Sudan. Some people believe that in order to be able to counter the Arab Islamic onslaught, Islamic civilization in the northern Sudan, they should create pan-Christianity. Since the majority ethnicities in South Sudan, the Dinkas and the Noah, they are mostly Christians. And they can create pan-Christianity and pan-Blackism to create South Sudan. What has happened? Both the Dinkas and the Noahs are currently killing themselves, showing that pan-Christianity is also a lie. Pan-Christianity is a lie. It's a lie, it's a farce. So you need to understand that those that are also trying to do pan-Christianity within Nigeria, it's all politics. And this is my last point. Islamic fundamentalists, Islamic extremists in Yoruba land are not doing it because of Islam. They are politicians. These are people that have failed in their lives. Without going through political Islamism, they can never be politically relevant. So by practicing political Islam, they believe they can get access to the corridors of power. So political Islam, these are people that are from the poor of our society. It was the same thing in Ilorin. Most of the new nobilities that were created post-Oyo Empire in Ilorin were Awomeru. They were children of the slaves, the children of the poor man, commoners. And they are the ones that became baloguns, became eminent aristocrats in Ilorin. That was why you see them, they are embracing Islam. No, because it was something that gave them economic freedom. We need to understand, which is why imperialism is built around economic hegemony. Racism is built around economic power. Everything has to do about economic power. The Yoruba people, have you defined the Nigeria you currently have? Are you an empire builder in Nigeria? Or you want to be build nation when you are surrounded by when you are surrounded by cannibals and egimos? When I mean cannibals,
Okay.
people that are ready to eat you alive, people that are ready to make you politically irrelevant within Nigeria, people that are ready to use some form of tricks, demographic adulteration, demographic coups, weaponization of history, weaponization of social media, radicalization of your youth, pan-Christianity, invasion of your society with fake drugs. Those that are killing you and displacing your rural population. Those that are trying to turn Yoruba Christians against Yoruba Muslims. Those that are trying to turn Yoruba land into another Lebanon. We have all sorts of criminals right now in Yoruba land using different tricks, sponsored by different people within Nigeria. Because how will the Sultan of Sokoto be able to assert his dominance over the Alaafin of Oyo, if not for pan-Islamism? The Sultan of Sokoto wanted to conquer the Oyo people. They
Okay.
wanted to conquer the Oyo people. You go and read about the Eleduwe War. Go and read about the Mugba War. Go and look at the Battle of Otefon. Go and look at all these wars that were fought when the Sokoto Caliphate army wanted to annex the entire Oyo Empire and erase the Oyo monarchy from existence. But they could not do it. That is why they've changed method. And it was Ahmadu Bello when he created Pan-Arawanism,
Okay.
Pan-Islamism, and Pan-Northanism, and enabled to the Northern to be able to take the Sokoto Caliphate into a different level. The biggest ill problem of the Sokoto Caliphate was their inability to get access to the Atlantic Ocean. If they'd been able to do that, they would have walked out of Nigeria. Because that is the only thing they need. And we have two major blocks that are nomadic in nature, looking for access to the sea, the southeast and the northwest. So you have to understand that is Nigeria an empire or a nation? Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? And there are multi-ethnic societies that are prosperous. If Switzerland with four ethnicities, ethnic nations, can be prosperous, if Belgium with three tribes, three ethnicities can be prosperous, and they are not saying let us stop being French, let us stop being Germans, let us stop being Dutch. If the United Kingdom, the English for 800 years tried to erase the Scottish identity, they tried to erase through brutal warfare, killing. They killed millions of people for 800 years, thinking they will stop the Scots from being Scots. They will stop the Irish from being Irish. They will stop the Welsh from being Welsh. They failed. That is why what you see, the four nation system within the United Kingdom, that you see within the United Kingdom, is not because the English wanted to do it because they were nice people. They had to capitulate and allow the different ethnic nations to be able to express their God-given potential and identity. The World Cup is currently going on. Scotland is representing Scotland in that World Cup, and England is representing England in the same World Cup. But when they go to the Olympics, they go as Great Britain, but they understand who they are.
Okay.
So when we say we think Yoruba first, we are not. Nobody should be. It is a form of political. But that is it is a form of it is a form of political ignorance. It is a form of political illiteracy for some people not to be able to understand that we must be able to defend our land. We must be able to express our identity within Nigeria. Being a Nigerian does not mean I need to dim the light of my Yorubaness. So that is why we are asking this question. Is Nigeria an empire or a nation? If it's not an empire, then why are you now scared when I say we are Yorubas before being Nigeria? So what exactly is this Nigeria that is afraid of our Yorubaness? Why should we destroy our organic identity because we want to promote even the promotion saying that the Nigerian identity is above the Yoruba identity is a form of racism.
Okay.
It's a form of black inferiority complex in the right in the real sense of it. It's the bitter truth. I'm going to stop here. Thank you so much. We're surely going to continue next week.
ọ̀tẹ̀ ló ń jẹ́ ló ń pè ọ́ kò sẹ́ni tí ò lórúkọ tiẹ̀ àti wípé ọmọ kì í gọ̀ títí sẹ́ẹ̀ kó gbàgbé orúkọ ara rẹ̀. ààfin tèmi ò nílò ìdánimọ̀ lọ́jà tó bá dọ́jà báyìí wọ́n á mọ̀ pé ó dọ́jà ni. èmi tí ń tòótọ́ Samuel Owóyẹmí fẹ́lẹ́fẹ́lẹ́ láyé lórúkọ mi, fẹ́lẹ́ ní gbogbo èèyàn mọ̀ mí sí. èmi náà kọ́, Ọlọ́run ọba òkè ló fún mi ṣe ní gbogbo ìgbà.